When I was 10 years old, I stole my sister's history school textbook, which was called The Illustrated History of Great Britain, 1770 to 1950, which was illustrated, as these things often are, throughout with cartoons. All these Gillrays, I thought, this is the most fantastic thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was interested in politics, I liked drawing, and I went to my father's desk and found some old nibs and started trying to crosshatch in the way that Gillray etched. Gillray is sort of the type specimen of a cartoonist. He was a hack. He was because what I do is, it isn't art, it's journalism. He had absolutely the right attitude, where he would, in the middle of the 1790s, he said, I'm going to start attacking the opposition, the Tories have got more money. And, which makes complete sense. And people say, oh, he's betraying his principles. No, we don't have principles. Our job is to take the piss out of the powerful. And I'm very happy to do that. I admire and like some politicians, but it would never stop me from drawing them eating babies. After that, I just thought, God, wouldn't it be great to be a cartoonist? I went to Cambridge University, got an extraordinarily bad degree, because I spent most of my time doing cartoons for 2-bit student papers, and then I sent an idea to the New Statesman, and they picked it up 6 months after I graduated, ran it for a year, a book came out of it, and 3 years later I was working in the Nationals. And so it was, I haven't had a proper job since the summer of 1979, which is quite an achievement. I'm very proud of that. The thing that really propelled me into the Nationals was working for a paper called Financial Weekly, where I was actually doing political stuff, but with a financial bent, and so about company reports about which I know nothing. I still don't understand the difference between a bear and a bull market, but I did understand the important training that was to work to a brief, which every cartoonist and illustrator's got to do. You've got to work to a brief. And if you're a political cartoonist, the brief is the news that day. I don't need too much analysis, just need the headlines. I'm immersed enough to know what's going on and to get the mood of things. And something will come. Even on a really slow news day, you think, well, God, what the hell am I going to do? And then something comes. It comes out of nowhere. I don't know where it's like there's a Rolodex in my head, which is constantly shuffling around, and it'll just take, oh, I'll do that and do that. So, I mean, this one here from last week of Williamson, this bloody algorithm, and I just thought, yeah, slaves to the algorithm. And I thought, the Grace Jones album cover, and there he is as Grace Jones screaming, slaves to the rhythm. I am seen widely as a left-wing cartoonist, though. Occasionally I get people who are absolutely horrified by the fact that I do not draw adulatory cartoons of their heroes. Somebody a couple of years ago accused me of being personally responsible for the existence of food banks in this country because of the way I drew Jeremy Corbyn's hat. Who knew I had such power? We had a very old-fashioned art teacher, a man with a big white beard and a soft flannel shirt and a white woolen tie. And he was explaining, as he must have done to generations of public school boys, how to look at things, how you should look at things as blocks of colour, blocks of shapes. And I realised the next day I was looking at the world in a completely different way, that I'd been looking at it in outline before, and now I was looking at it and it actually more or less transformed my life. Because I was able to see the world differently. I think in images all the time. I've got a film playing in my head the constant time. And just as a political cartoon is there to a large extent to enable the reader to exercise their fundamental human right of laughing at their leaders, so my graphic novel adaptations are enabling people to spark up their visual imaginations by showing how I have imagined this. And hopefully they will then start thinking about things visually, because I think it liberates you. It sort of makes you a fuller person if you can think about things visually. I mean, it's as Ruskin said. Let's bring Ruskin in. Why not? Drawing isn't about drawing. Drawing is about looking. My beloved father, late father, was just couldn't work out what I was doing and why I was wasting my time with this stuff. Would never have sanctioned for the single second the idea I should go to art school. And neither did my school think that people should go to art school, that you should go to Cambridge, which I did. It didn't do me much good. But the idea that this is just for kids, that what I do essentially is just colouring in. Whereas you just look at Robert Crumb and you look at Gillray and you look at Hogarth, this is serious grown-up stuff. As Natalie Haynes once said to me, people say, oh, you just make jokes about things. If you go to the trouble of turning horror into a joke. That's a serious enterprise. And that's what cartoonists do all the time. And I think that's, satire, and cartoons as a subset of satire, have been around for as long as human beings have. We laugh in order to stop ourselves going insane with existentialist dread of death and sex and wild animals and our leaders and our friends. So I've always argued against the notion that maturity is valuable. I don't think it is. I think there are two kinds of people. There are people who are children who then become adolescents and then revert to being children and don't care anymore. And there are people who remain adolescents throughout their lives and care all the time about the way they look and how they're sounding and take things terribly, terribly seriously and turn into Christopher Nolan. And I'm very fortunate to live in a country where we've had over 300 years of this material, and we're part of the political conversation. So not yet has anybody tried to imprison me or torture me, which happens to my colleagues in other countries. With the onset of the glories of social media, where somehow or other we've managed to tap into our collective id, you get people whining all the time. Whine, 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 whine. They don't like this, they don't like that. But previously they used to just have to go to the trouble of finding a stamp in order to send me a death threat. They were slightly more alarming. If you get something sent to your home address, that's slightly more alarming. If you just get some little wanker sitting in his mum's bedroom, in the middle of the Rockies saying he's going to kill you, it doesn't really mean that much. But it's what I never fail to be astonished by is how furious and murderously angry people get on behalf of other people. Seldom do the politicians themselves complain, because in this country it's part of the deal that you have to be able to withstand the cartoons, otherwise you're really not up to the job. So I don't expect any cartoons of mine to change anything. I expect them to make people feel better. Either because, as I frequently get told by people who get in touch with me, people are relieved to discover that somebody actually thinks the same way as they do, that somebody is saying out loud in public what they feel about things. But also just because when you laugh you release these lovely endorphins, and the purpose of this stuff mostly is it doesn't, not just to make you laugh, it's just part of the armour in the political cartoon is humour. But when it does make you laugh, it just makes you feel better. That's why we have laughter as an evolutionary survival tool, otherwise as I said, we go insane with existentialist dread. Still my favourite one is a drawing I did at the time of the 1997 election, when they brought out the New Labour manifesto. And it was called That New Labour Manifesto, soft, strong and surprisingly long. And it was Tony Blair as the Andrex puppy, and it had the toilet roll sort of spreading across the frame, leading back to an outside Kazi with Thatcher sitting in it. So it had a good pun, it had a nice animal, and it had a toilet, and that's the ingredients of satire, basically.